Washington and USC haven't been playing any good football as of late. The only difference is that USC not playing their best football has 2 losses because of it, and they damn near lost to Cal last week. Meanwhile, Washington has been struggling ever since they beat Oregon to beat Arizona State, which was their worst performance of the season, and they damn near lost to Stanford. And I'm looking at Washington, and I'm trying to figure out, what the hell happened to this team? Because it's like we're watching 2 different Washington Huskies teams right now. The Washington team that we saw prior to beating Oregon was lights out, not just on offense, but defensively also. But the defense has kind of went down. Michael Penix, I've noticed that he doesn't start games on fire. It kind of takes him a little bit of time to get going. And going against USC, I don't think that just because Alex Grinch has a terrible defense, you can count out USC in this game because they still have Caleb Williams. Now, I know that Caleb Williams hasn't been playing his best football, but it's not really all of his fault. The offensive line hasn't been great, and the defense also hasn't really been giving him too many breathers neither. But you want to know something that gives me a lot of confidence that USC's offense is going to be able to match Washington's point for point in this game? The fact that Washington doesn't have a consistent pass rush. And that's really going to hurt them when they're going up against a quarterback like Caleb Williams, because if you can't get after Caleb Williams like Notre Dame was able to do, like Utah was able to do, you're going to get shredded. Caleb Williams is one of those quarterbacks that you give him all day to throw, and I promise you he's going to have a 4 or 5 touchdown performance. Another thing about USC is that their defense, they give up a lot of points, a lot of yards. They're not good in too much anything but one area, and that's their ability to get turnovers. Michael Penix, he hasn't really been playing, mistake-free, careless football as of late. Against Arizona State, he had a couple of turnovers. I believe he had an interception against Stanford. This Washington team, and I think they're coming into this USC game playing their worst football at the worst time. And the majority of people out there are picking Washington not just to cover this game, but to win outright. And I kind of want to caution you with that. One thing about USC that people seem to forget is that they got plenty of firepower to go toe-to-toe with anybody offensively as long as you don't have a great defensive line. Utah was able to just be more physical than USC, and they were able to bully them. Same thing with Notre Dame. They bullied USC. Washington isn't that kind of team. They're a way different team, and you know how the old saying goes, styles make fights. Washington is more of a finesse team. They have the ability to run the football with success, but they just choose not to. They're not really a team that you think about for being physical up front. They're a team that wants to spread you out and just sling that rock downfield, which they definitely should be able to do against, a poverty defense. But let's not act like USC's offense is going to be outmatched against Washington's defense. Washington has a couple of NFL guys, but when you look at this pass rush, I don't really think that USC's offensive line is going to be in for a tough afternoon against it. And let's not act like Washington's defense is just this elite defense. Their defense isn't better than Utah's or even Oregon State's. This was the same defense that really couldn't stop Oregon for too many times outside of Oregon getting a little bit aggressive on 4th down. Bo Nix had a good performance against Washington's defense. And Caleb Williams, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do the same. You're not the same team that Utah and Notre Dame are. And that's why I think people are overlooking USC in this game, because you look back at USC's losses to Notre Dame and Utah. They lost to physical teams. If you just can't beat up USC physically and you just can't beat them down up front, they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do to you offensively. Zachariah Branch, this could be a career game for him. He has so much speed. And I don't really know how you're Washington, how you can prepare for that. They just have so much talent offensively that I don't think that Washington, even if they do win this game, that is going to be by, them covering that 3.5. I definitely think that this is a game that's going to be decided by 1 point. It's going to come down to whoever gets the ball last. I mean, Kyle damn near put up 50 against USC's defense. But meanwhile, when I watched Washington against Arizona State, they only put up 15? Washington has not been playing some of their best football. I'm a little bit confused that so many people just have so much confidence to claim that this is just a lock for Washington. Even though USC has 2 losses and their playoff hopes are all but over, I mean, they still got a lot to play for. They can still ruin your season. They can ruin your college football playoff hopes. And if you're Washington, yeah, you got that win over Oregon. But ever since that game, can you honestly say that you've played like the better team than Oregon since? I mean, Oregon is still consistent, and they still play better defense than you. Yeah, you got some guys up front, but we haven't really been seeing those guys make a lot of big plays over the last couple of weeks. I mean, Stanford was going crazy. Their receivers were going crazy. If Stanford is carving you up through the air, that says a lot about your secondary. And it doesn't matter about injuries or whatever excuse you want to use to justify the poor performance that you had. At the end of the day, you're going against one of the most talented offenses in all of college football when you look at what USC has at the wide receiver position. You see, the only way that you can really shut down the team like USC's offense is if you can just be able to outmatch them up front. And I don't think Washington's defensive line poses a mismatch to the offensive line of USC, even with USC's offensive line not playing at the level that they did last season. USC defensively, though, I mean, damn, you're not good at anything, but you can force turnovers. I think a big key in this game is going to be which defense can get the stops on 4th down, who can get the stops in the red zone, and who can force takeaways and get the ball back to their offense. You see, stops are so important in this game because any team that could get a stop, they potentially could go up by 2 possessions. And then if it becomes a 2-possession game at any point, that puts even more stress on 2 defenses that really haven't played at a high level, especially USC. I'm not going to disrespect Washington and say that their defense is worse than USC's, because USC's defense, it's just like, damn, you might as well let me go out there and go ahead and call the plays for Alex Grinch. I don't think we could do any worse. So if this is a game where, let's say Washington comes away with a couple of turnovers and they can end up capitalizing off those turnovers, and let's say it's 28-14, or let's say it's 35-24 going into halftime, you feel really good about Washington's chances of being able to win this game. And even though their defense isn't great, you trust Washington's defense a lot more to get a stop and key moments in this game than you do USC. When you go back to that Oregon game, they got big stops on 4th down, even though you can say that maybe Dan Lanning was a little bit too aggressive, not opting to kick the field goal before halftime and having a questionable play call on 4th down late in the 4th quarter, which set Washington up in position to win that game. But outside of that, I mean, USC's defense also is pretty optimistic themselves, or opportunist, or whatever you want to say, like against Utah. Like their safety, Bullock, he had a pick 6. This is a defense that they're not good at stopping anything, but they do have the ability to come away with big turnovers and big moments. And Michael Penix does cough the football up at times. And I trust Caleb Williams way more than I trust Michael Penix. I still think that Caleb Williams is the better quarterback in this game. And with Washington's pass rush not really being all that great, I definitely think that this is a matchup where we can see USC pull off the upset, and that's why I'm taking the Trojans to win. I like Washington. Washington, without a doubt, has a better overall team than what USC has. But defensively, I don't know if they're going to be able to play the same style of football that Utah and Notre Dame were able to play, because they're just not built like those teams. They don't have the same level of physicality that the Irish have when they beat USC. And plus, USC is playing this game at home. Yeah, Washington is going to be able to match them point for point, but so can USC. I think this game comes down to whoever gets the ball last, and I think it's going to be USC. And to be quite honest with you, like I still think that USC is a pretty good team. I don't care where they're ranked. I don't care the fact that they do got 2 losses. I think you're a little bit naive to just count out USC. Like they're not a team that's capable of being able to beat a team like Washington or Oregon if they play their best game. They don't need to have a great defense to beat you as long as their offense is humming and you just don't beat them up front. So give me USC to win this game. I'm going to say the final score is going to be 56-50. Final score prediction. I don't really think we're going to see a lick of defense until late in this game.